Hello everybody and welcome back to Casks and Points. Today we're going to find out how good the brand new Found North Goldfinch release is. So Found North does a lot of cool things. They're actually the only brand that I currently receive media samples from, and that's partially on me. I should probably reach out to some other places, but I've been a big fan of Found North, and so I've been happy to take on the samples because, well, I'll give my very honest review. I have been a fan of a lot of their stuff, so I've had a lot of fun getting to receive these samples. They're 100 ml samples here, and so today we're going to try the brand new Goldfinch. We're going to see if it's worth your time, and we're going to compare it against the Batch 11, and then also this is the Hell Diver release. So this was their previous special release. This is another special release. They've done obviously 11 batches so far, and some of them have ranged. Some of them have been very, very good in my opinion. Probably in that mid-8s, like really nice weekly sipper level pour, and then others have been not nearly as good and have found to be a bit youthful or a bit weird. Now, the magic of Found North is that they're blending very old Canadian whiskey, and they're usually really good at blending it, but sometimes it's really for some people and sometimes it's really not. So let's get into it here. Let's find out what we're drinking. So we're going to start off here with Batch 11. Now I'll put all the details on your screen right now, but typically these are between a 15 and 24 year blend of usually corn whiskey, some rye whiskey. Sometimes they throw in like malt whiskey or whatever. So they've done some weird things. Sometimes they have like a wheated whiskey in there. Like I believe Batch 10 had a wheated whiskey in there. So they do weird things at Found North, but I've had fun with them so far. So let's find out here. If Batch 11 is good, we'll warm up with these two and then we'll go on to the Great Goldfinch. On the nose here, it's super, super fruity. The oak structure on there is a bit unique. It's pretty hot, and it's not really reminiscent of what I would typically consider to be like an older bourbon nose. But it's very potent. Like, it's very, very rich. Cherry, vanilla, that oak. Almost like a very new, like, fresh oakiness to it. Let's take a sip. Solid. There's a great caramels in there in the beginning. And then it gets into a nice rich spiciness that I really enjoy. Cinnamon, nutmeg, your typical baking spices there. But then there's a nice real leather and vanilla throughout that pour towards the, the mid-late palate there. That's really good. Yeah. Solid, solid stuff here. Now, these bottles typically retail between $150 and like $200. And so they're not cheap bottles. And for Canadian whiskey, most people don't think Canadian whiskey can be that good. But Found North has been doing pretty good with it so far. Yeah, I mean, this Batch 11 here, super, super solid. I have done a review on Batch 11 already, and I stand by. It's still really good. Let's go on to the Hell Diver. Now, the Hell Diver here is modeled after the previous Hell Diver. Now, this is a cognac finish and a bunch of other things. Again, I'll put all the details on your screen right now, but it's unique, and I don't think it's going to be for everybody. This is one of their lower proofs here. I believe this is, 112.4 proof. So definitely pretty unique in the grand scheme of things. And on the nose here, I mean, just a vanilla bomb. Definitely some spices in there. Definitely some darker berry fruitiness in there. Wow, that is very pleasant. But what's really overwhelming it is like this vanilla cream note on it that's really strong. And, you have the vanilla, you have the maple, you have the caramel, you have that oak on it. You definitely have the fruitiness on it. Overall, it's actually a very well-balanced nose. Let's take a sip. Yeah, and on the palate, I don't like it as much. I do think the stewed fruitiness of it that you're really getting from those finishes, definitely very present here. Definitely very obvious on here. But I do fear that it just doesn't have that kind of complexity or potency that I'm getting on, say, Batch 11, which is why I think of this lineup, it's probably my least favorite of the three, although I haven't tried the Goldfinch yet, so I guess we're going to find out if it's my least favorite. I like it less than the Batch 11. I can say that for now. It's a good, I mean, the nose is just so pleasant. Like, I would just smell that for hours. It's super, super good here. But I think the palate just is not as rich, but that vanilla, I love vanilla cream. I love like butterscotch, buttercream, those kinds of notes on it. I love those notes in whiskey. This really has that all over the nose. But on the palate, it's not as strong, and that's okay. I think you get the more stewed fruitiness on it. And again, it's okay. But let's go on to what you guys are all here for. Let's find out if Goldfinch is any good. Now, Goldfinch is a blend of 15 to 22-year-old whiskeys. It's 116.2 proof here, 58.1% alcohol. Really, really cool photo on. I'll put a photo on your screen right now so you guys can see what I'm looking at. You know, these kind of, I mean, the finches that are gold. And it does say 15 years on it, but it goes up to 22 years. Obviously, you have to put the youngest age on the label. And on the nose here, oh, this is interesting. Kind of get a little bit of that like butterscotch, buttercream, vanilla cream that I was getting off of the Helldiver. Okay, it's pretty spicy as well. Definitely some oak on it, and definitely a little bit of youthfulness on it, which is interesting. Now, obviously, these age statements are incredibly impressive, but it is Canadian whiskey, and 20-year Canadian whiskey can be worse than 5-year Kentucky whiskey sometimes. Sometimes it can be way better. There's a real range to the Canadian world. I haven't dived that deep into it, but I do have some like 30-year Obtainiums, and those are usually pretty solid, but I can't even imagine, I can't even fathom a 30-year bourbon tasting that good. So, yeah, aging is much slower in Canada. It's much slower in Scotland. These colder countries, just the way their climates work, the whiskey is just not going in and out of the barrel, which is what's really aging it. It's not doing that as quickly. But also that's why you have like in Texas and Georgia, why the aging is so quick. And that's why 4-year Georgia whiskey or Texas whiskey can be as complex and deep and rich, and the color can be so dark compared to like a 12-year Kentucky. So the more heat, the more variance in your climate, the better you are for aging whiskey. And Canada, not the best for aging whiskey. But if you take 20-year stuff and blend it and finish it, you know, sometimes it's not too bad. Let's take a sip. Hey, this is interesting. So I get a lot of the cognac finish influence on this one. So there's a nice berry fruitiness on it. You do have those typical more cognac spices on it. Kind of reminiscent of like, you know, we have a Louis XIII hiding back here, and I don't drink that much. I did a review on that a few months ago, but you got a very reminiscent of that kind of spicy profile to it, and kind of cinnamon, nutmeg. Not really like a super strong baking spice that we'll get more on a bourbon. I think it's kind of like a sweeter spice profile, like maybe more cinnamon on it, more cinnamon sugar kind of stuff on it. More reminiscent as to what I would typically get off of cognac here. Now, this is technically a neck pour. I just cracked this 5 minutes ago for the sake of this video. Okay, that's good. That's good. I keep thinking I'm done with my thoughts and I can put the glass down, but then, you know, it brings me back a little. You know, I want to drink more of it. So I think you have that spice profile in the beginning, and then you have like that creamy buttercream, all that in the mid palate, and then the late palate, the finish, you start getting into the fruity flavors. You know, your berries, your cherry, your blackberry, you know, all those kinds of berries on it. So, okay, that's an overall interesting pour. I think I definitely like it more than the Helldiver. I mean, the nose on the Helldiver, that's hard to beat, but I think the palate really falls off for the Helldiver. I really like the batch 11. I think it might be one of my favorite, if not my favorite of all the 11 batches so far. But I will say it's less interesting. So right now, I'm actually leaning towards the Goldfinch being my favorite of the three. Let's take one more final sip here, and let's give it a rating. Yeah, that's nice. I mean, that has vanilla cream. It has cognac spices on it. Now, you have to like cognac to like that. If you don't love cognac, if you don't love Armagnac, if you don't like port, if you don't like those kinds of finishes, I mean, a lot of the Found North stuff is finished. And so you have to really enjoy those flavors. But if you enjoy those flavors, I think you're going to like this stuff a lot. So I would say I would rank these, I think the Helldiver is last. I would go ahead and rate that like a 7.8. I think the nose is incredible, but the nose is honestly high 8s to me, but that palate really falls off. Then I would rate the batch 11 here. I would say that that's probably like an 8.3. I think it's really solid. And then this Goldfinch here, probably also an 8.3. But I think I slightly give it the edge because I just love that vanilla cream that I got off these two, except this one gives me a lot more of other elements, the spices, the fruitiness on it. That's good whiskey. That's really good whiskey. Anyways, that's Found North. That's the brand new batch. I would say for MSRP, it's a buy. Would not pay secondary on this. Would not pay $300 for this bottle or $350 or anything like that. I don't think it's going for that. I think even on the secondary markets, it's probably going for like $225. And for that, it's not a bad buy. I think if you're really into the cognac notes, you just really have to like cognac. I think if you're really turned off by cognac finishes and stuff like that, you might not find a whole lot that you enjoy about Found North. But I don't mind cognac finishes, probably in the grand world of finishes. While I'm not a big finish fan, I think cognac is probably my highest. Cognac and Armagnac are really up there for me with finishes. And I don't really like the more boring, tawny port finishes or whatever, because the red wine finishes just end up adding a berryness that I think you could get out of bourbon anyways, in a way that I think cognac or Tokai, I really like Tokai finishes, those add notes to the whiskey that you just wouldn't get on a typical bourbon or whatever. And so I think Found North does bring some elements of those finishes where I think you're getting those unique notes that I wouldn't get that kind of complexity and that kind of precise flavor profile on a typically aged bourbon, and that's why I really enjoy it. But anyways, I hope you guys all had fun, we all learned something, I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.